Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to be diving into a topic that's top of mind for so many businesses and leaders today, employee experience. We're going to be talking to one of our favorite EZO partners, Zendesk, and their recently published 2023 Employee Experience Trends report to discuss how leading organizations are thinking about employee experience. More importantly for this audience, how they're leveraging technology and digital transformation initiatives to create exceptional employee experiences in this new world of remote and hybrid work. More specifically, we're going to cover why employee experience is in the spotlight, why IT departments are retooling their tech stacks to better support hybrid workers, how teams are onboarding AI to cut costs and provide faster support, and how personalized communication can boost employee productivity and satisfaction. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today, Summer Faruqi, the Director of Product Marketing at Zendesk, and Paul Smith, an Enterprise Sales Leader here at EZO.
Thanks so much for having me on today, Bruce. Excited to get into all things EX with you, Paul.
Paul, I think you're on mute.
I'm looking forward to this too, Summer. You have some pretty exciting information to share. And Bruce, thanks for the introduction.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us, both Summer and Paul. Okay, just a couple of quick housekeeping items to go over before we get started. Please feel free to use the Q&A button in Zoom to ask any questions, and we'll address them at the end during the Q&A section. Also, a link to the recording of this webinar will be sent to your email address within a day, so please keep an eye out for that. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Bruce. Before we get into our conversation, Summer, would you like to share a bit about Zendesk for people who aren't familiar with what y'all do?
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Paul. So at Zendesk, we're absolutely obsessed with creating memorable service experiences, whether you're a customer or an employee. We were actually founded 15 years ago on the belief that service should be both powerful and simple. And when you look at the CX and EX software back then, it was really clunky. It was hard to use for both the agent and the person who was requesting service. So that was a really disruptive idea. And since we've created a product that's just really easy to use, it's flexible, and it allows our customers to realize value quickly. And we continue to deliver innovative solutions in this space with features like AI-powered service that keeps us a market leader in the service space.
Thanks. Thanks for that, Summer. To give you a little bit of background on EZO, EZO is focused on maximizing the use of IT and non-IT assets for business. We work very closely with Zendesk, and Zendesk EZO product integration gives you a feature-rich IT service management solution, allowing you to have complete control over employee communications as well as complete visibility into all the assets that you may have in your organization. Obviously, we're here because of employee experience, EX in short. It's top of mind for leaders in business today. I hear it in my conversations pretty regularly with IT directors, heads of operation, and C-suite leaders. But to see it validated in this research is pretty powerful. I believe that the Zendesk EX Trends report said that 78% of leaders of the leaders they surveyed reported that senior management is paying more attention to EX than ever. Am I correct on that, Summer?
Yeah, that's right, Paul. You know, the past few years, we've seen these like once in a generation shifts to how we work, and that I don't think we're fully done yet with, by the way, that have just upended both the employee experience and the business outcomes attached to having engaged, productive teams. The beauty of our research is that it really helped to quantify the impact. So, 87% of the leaders that we surveyed admitted that a great employee experience was a huge lever, in attracting and in retaining talent. And 41% of those same leaders said that a negative employee experience was the direct cause of increased turnover in the last year. So these really aren't soft costs that we're talking about. Missing the mark on EX has a real tangible impact to your company's bottom line.
And it's a huge change. We see it, as we said it in the report, we see it as I'm talking to people, we see it with today's economy. We know that retaining your employees is pretty key. And we all know turnover is expensive.
Mhm.
So to take a minute to dive a little further into the report. The full title is Employee Experience Trends 2023. And it really is a really comprehensive look at the main issues and challenges in this area. The data comes directly from the teams that were affected by these outcomes. Can you tell us a little more about who you surveyed and how you arrived at these insights, Summer?
Yeah, of course, Paul. So we surveyed nearly 400 EX and technology leaders and professional across 20 different countries. So the insights that we're going to be talking about today reflect a global army of experts in this field.
Oh, great, thanks. At the end of the day, we're both software companies, and the connection between asset management or employee service software and the aspiration to have a great employee experience isn't always clear. How would you connect the dots between the work we do and employee experience?
Yeah, I love this question because it's such a common misconception that EX is limited to things like employee survey software, right? And everyone in this room, we spend a fair bit of time thinking about laptops and accessories. So let's just kind of start there as an example. So in the old world, if I needed a new keyboard, let's say, an IT leader setting up an authenticated vending machine where I could just go and grab the new accessory that I needed was a completely game-changing solution for me as an employee. But now, of course, working remotely, that would be a nightmare. Zendesk is a remote-first company generally, and I don't live anywhere close to our headquarters in San Francisco, so I would have to take a plane to get to that vending machine. And because I've been fully remote since I joined, I'd first have to chase down some internal team to get a badge just to access our headquarter offices, right? Now, thankfully at Zendesk, we use our own product to power our internal support. So I don't have to worry about that. But imagine if my IT support team said to me, nope, we have this awesome vending machine that we made available for you, and that's the only way you can get a new keyboard. As an employee, I would feel frustrated because I have to take a plane, inconvenienced. Again, I'm having to fly out to San Francisco just to get a new keyboard. And ultimately, I just feel really unsupported. And if I had enough of these really frustrating employee service experiences that just made doing my job harder for no good reason, I'd probably vote with my feet and find a job somewhere else. Now, in this situation, I'm gone, and now my leadership and my team, they have to take on the work that I've left behind. And in this economy, they may or may not get the headcount that they need to replace me. So what do you think this does to the productivity within the business, within the org, within the team that I've left? And all of this because of a really crappy employee service experience. So obviously, this is a bit of an extreme example. Keyboard vending machines are probably not a super common asset management solution, although Zendesk did actually used to do this. But the frustrations, that kind of like lapse in productivity, that feeling of being unsupported, all those are going to be the same anytime you force an employee to use tools that just aren't built for the way that we work today. And we heard this problem come through loud and clear in our survey. 52% of employees we surveyed believed that internal software related to their employee experience is difficult and dated to use. And another 30% don't even know how to get in touch with their company's internal teams, whether that's, HR or IT, et cetera. So it's really a very short walk from a subpar employee service experience to a negative overall employee experience and all of the outcomes that we associate with that.
Oh, good. Summer, I was just looking at your vending machine example. I thought that was pretty interesting. I wonder, did they give you soda, depending on what kind of keyboard that you got out of the vending machine?
I think it's just the keyboards.
Yeah, okay. So going back to that vending machine example you just gave, asset management is one of the spaces where I think we can most clearly see the pain of transitioning from the old world to the new world and what that does to employee experience. I mean, the increase in remote devices itself has a direct impact on employee experience. For example, these days, instead of a keyboard vending machine on site, it is vastly more common for keyboards and other devices and peripherals to be scattered across the country and in many cases across continents. Decentralized work, whether fully remote or hybrid, puts a huge strain on an IT department's ability to manage the assets that each employee relies on, and makes these support of these assets really challenging. For instance, you might have an IT service team located in New York, needing to track and manage assets of employees in South Africa, Copenhagen, and Japan. And each company has a different set of devices. And we expect that team to deliver the same quality of service for employees across all these locations. The complexity that support teams have to deal with now definitely has a huge impact on service quality and ultimately employee experience. It's pretty clear to me now why EX has become such an important goal for leaders. These examples we've just been talking through are also a perfect segue to the next trend I wanted to discuss, which is why IT departments are retooling their tech stacks to better support hybrid workers. The specific challenges of asset management in this new world really help bring to life the challenges and shifting away from the old model of in-person work with teams and working in the same place and time zone to the new world, where teams are distributed across geographies and time zones, working in hybrid and fully remote capacities. We see that quite regularly. Nowadays, I think it's more the standard. So I think this new vision is really taking place. And so my question is this: now that the pandemic is over, knock on wood, do you think we're going to have to worry about remote work for much longer?
Yeah, knock on wood for sure. Yeah, 100%. I do. You know, the Society for HR Management, which is really just an authority on workplace trends, did a study on this, and they found that half of today's workers are definitely looking to work remotely. And then there was another study that Zapier conducted where they found that 61% of employees would actually quit their current job for a remote opportunity. And then, you know, anecdotally, I think we've all heard this from our friends and our colleagues too. You know, they're just like some people who will not take a job that requires them to be in the office. You know, these are people that might be working parents, or they have some kind of personal obligation that makes remote work not just a preference, but really a necessity for them to stay in the workforce. So I don't think we're going to be able to put the bird back in the cage here.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Summer. The other thing is the options that you have for talent are much greater when you have the whole world to look at as your pool, as opposed to a specific location. And so I think that does make a big difference. Sounds like we are all going to need to be able to adapt and be flexible enough to support remote and hybrid work based on what you just said, Summer. Going back to the topic of how you retool your tech stack to support these kind of workers, I think a lot of leaders think they need to add a whole new suite of tools to get the kind of digital transformation needed to meet the moment. Do you think that's the right approach?
You know, Paul, the idea of just adding more tools and complexity gives me heartburn. And I'm sure that if we have any IT leaders in the room today, that these guys can relate. You know, workplace transformation today is really about unifying disparate tools and systems so you can create a more cohesive employee experience across your entire organization. So you can't have IT in one pocket with one set of tools, HR in another corner with a completely different set of tools, and having neither of these sets of tools connected or speaking to one another. It's just a disastrous experience for the employee to manage, not to mention a fairly fragile and clunky tech stack. So, you know, one thing we're really proud of at Zendesk is that our EX solution meets the needs of just about any internal service team. So you can have one solution to address multiple team service needs. And if you have one or two teams that have asset management requirements, maybe it's IT and HR for onboarding, Zendesk and Ezio work so seamlessly together that they virtually feel like one joint cohesive solution, and why we really love this partnership.
Yeah, I agree with you, Summer. We really love this partnership for the same reasons. We know that a lot of internal support teams using Zendesk, having asset visibility is a crucial part of delivering faster issue resolution and better employee experiences. It's much easier if when you call into your support department, they know who you are, they know what equipment you have, they know what systems you're running on that equipment. So you don't have to back and forth between an inexperienced user trying to find all these different codes that the support rep is asking them for, which really adds to your frustration. Anybody who's had to reset their cell phone knows about that pain. For these agents, having instant access to the status and characteristics of employees' equipment allows them to provide so much more efficient service in a way that is also painless for them. They don't need to spend hours tracking down employee asset information, as I was just discussing. And of course, when the service team is able to deliver better, faster service, there's significantly less downtime and stress for the employee. Now that we're talking about tech solutions, AI is obviously another topic that's getting a lot of attention right now. Do you think there's an opportunity to leverage AI to support EX goals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, at Zendesk, we've been using AI for things like ticket deflection and intelligent self-service for years. And we're now really taking AI to the next level with features like intelligent triage, which are a bit more advanced, that allow internal service teams to continue to just work smarter instead of working harder. And again, going back to this concept of unification and unified service, 71% of the EX leaders we surveyed said that AI bots help to bring continuity when service teams are lean. So even if your IT support team is down to like 2 agents supporting thousands of employees, forward-thinking EX leaders are recognizing the potential to use effective, and that's really a key word there, AI bots to deliver the same level of support employees came to expect when there was maybe a team of like 10 or 20 IT agents working to support them. And, you know, right now, honestly, times are a little bit tough for businesses, and we're in a moment when a lot of internal service teams are maybe a little bit leaner than they have been in the last year or two. And these kinds of AI solutions are no-brainers when it comes to just helping keep costs down and being able to maintain or, you know, even ramp up on your levels of productivity.
Cool. So, okay, so to dive a little deeper, so Summer, we're both in tech. So for us, AI, we're probably very up to speed on the capabilities of AI and probably are pretty comfortable with it, right? So, you know, I don't have any concerns about using a bot because I'm comfortable with technology. Do you think people in general are really comfortable with AI? Like, do people want to talk to a bot?
Yeah, I know certainly working in tech, AI, you just can't get away from it. But we actually asked this in last year's EX Trends study, and 69% of our respondents were okay with engaging with bots. I think ultimately it just boils down to how effective the AI is. So going back to like effective use of AI that I was just mentioning, if you're engaging with a bot or some other AI solution that repeatedly gives you the wrong information or sends you down some wild goose chase, or it just makes it 5 times longer to get the support that you're looking for, of course you're going to be wary of it. Of course you're not going to want to see more of this proliferate. And I think, you know, we've had those service experiences as customers of different companies, right? When you've got some AI-powered solution that sends you to the wrong team or the wrong article over and over again, and you're more frustrated and probably more escalated than when you first reached out to that company's support team. So again, that's why at Zendesk, our AI solutions are aimed at allowing teams to work smarter. So you can just achieve those faster SLAs, better service, and ultimately happier and more well-supported employees.
Happier and more well-supported employees. That's what we're here for, right?
Yes.
And I think that's what we're all looking for. I think productivity is a big piece of that, right? To make people as productive as possible. It's pretty clear how AI can support higher levels of productivity, but one of the key findings of the Zendesk EX Trends report, and the last one we'll discuss today, is that personalized communication can also help drive productivity. The connection between personalization and increased productivity, I don't think is obvious to most. Can you say more about how these two are connected?
Yeah, happy to, Paul. So personalization is another one of these terms that sounds really simple, but can be applied in a really broad variety of ways, which is where I think some of that confusion comes in. So let's just try to make this concept as simple as possible. As people have kind of settled into their own personal remote or hybrid work style, they've developed pretty distinct communication preferences. So, you know, you'll have some people who want to communicate exclusively via Slack or Teams, and there are other people who want to stick to what they know, those traditional, you know, communication channels like email. And in this context, when we're talking about how people like to be communicated with, personalization is really about communicating with people via the channels that they prefer, not the channels that you've decided are right for them. In the context of employee service, this is actually a really important point, because if your internal service operations can only support what I'd call like these more traditional channels like email, you're creating friction for the employee who spends all day monitoring Slack and doesn't check their email. For that person, it's now probably going to take them longer to get resolution of their issue. It's going to decrease their level of satisfaction with the service that they do receive, which by proxy reduces the effectiveness of your internal service team in a way that's totally avoidable with the right tooling.
That's a good example. That's a good example. And, as you were going through that, Summer, all I could think about was my communications with my kids, who constantly are yelling to me, stop calling me, please just text me. They always add boomer to the end of that because they're trying to make me feel old. But I think that's a situation that I think most of us are familiar with, especially if you have children. You're much more likely to get in touch with them with a text than you are with a phone call, because that's the mode that they've chosen is the best for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it makes you feel any better, I'm a phone call person myself, but like, I'm sure when you do call them, I know I experienced this with my friends, you can hear the sighs and the eye rolls through the speaker when you call them, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what's going on with your employees. It's the same thing. When you force them to live in these systems and live in these channels that they just really don't like to use just to get help that they need to do their jobs. It just makes moving on with your day and getting your work done so much harder for no reason. And no one's going to be excited about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not my kids, that's for sure. But in all seriousness, I think that's pretty much, that makes pretty intuitive sense. And Zendesk saw that validated in the data as well.
Yeah, we absolutely did. So the overwhelming majority, I think it was 87% of the leaders that we surveyed, reported that personalization increased employee satisfaction. And again, when you consider that personalization doesn't necessarily have to be really far-fetched or really complex, it can be as simple as communicating with your employees in ways that they want to be communicated with. I think it just becomes a much more tangible, like immediately achievable goal.
Okay. So Summer, you've given us a lot of great information so far. How would you summarize the key areas where EX and technology leaders should focus their efforts?
Yeah, I hope what's come through in our conversation today is that having the right workplace technologies in place is really critical to creating a great employee experience. So in terms of where I think leaders should be focusing their efforts right now, I'd say there's really 3 areas that are going to be the most important to invest in today to see that long-term success. The first is making sure that you have modern and, of course, secure digital solutions that can really support the way that we work now. So going back to that vending machine example we started with, you need to invest in service solutions that can support remote and hybrid work across locations, and that also work equally well for various teams. So, not having one thing for IT and one thing for HR and all of that, so that you have a cohesive, easy to manage experience for your employees or your end users, as well as the IT teams that are actually managing your tech stacks. The second is, getting on board the AI train. That's moving, and everyone kind of needs to jump on now. AI is a really transformative technology that I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg with, and it's important that you start to understand, you start to adopt, and of course see the benefits of these technologies today. So for employee service teams, that means things like using AI chatbots to help with ticket deflection, or integrating advanced AI features that support more intelligent operations and workflows. And then lastly, I'd say you need to make sure that you're regularly capturing employee feedback and satisfaction so you can optimize your service operations to make sure you're actually doing the thing that you said you do, which is support your employees. And I think that this is one that's really easy to overlook. But again, as we're moving away from these like co-located workplaces where everyone's in the same place, working in the same time zone, where it might be a little bit easier to solicit and get that qualitative feedback, especially that you need to be better, right? There's no one that can be better if you just imagine what you're doing well. You need that feedback loop. it's important that you have the right systems in place to help you capture that from all of your employees, no matter where they are, no matter what team they're on, et cetera. So, I think if you focus your investments in these 3 areas, you're really going to reap the benefits in terms of just better employee retention, more employee engagement, and higher levels of productivity and output in the long term.
Okay, good. So I think, as I look at those points that you pointed out, Summer, just quickly to go through them, having modern and secure digital solutions that can really support the way we work, I think that's a key thing. And I think a lot of executives are looking at that and thinking that says they have to retool themselves completely. Going back to previous statements that Summer made, it's not necessary to retool your whole organization in order to come up with those more modern, secure solutions. AI, we talk about part of the employee experience is actually keeping your employees and making them proud of where they work. AI shows that you're at the leading edge. You're doing the things that makes their life as easy as possible, and you're doing something cool. So I think AI is something that we really want to look at, and I see it showing up more and more, but there's still some hesitation, and I hope this information gives you some ideas on how you might be able to take advantage of that. The last thing I think is one that's missed the most, to agree with Summer, getting feedback from your employees on their satisfaction levels of what's working, what's not working. Let's all remember we have a area that we understand. We live in the US, we understand the US market, but getting feedback from your Japanese installation is going to give you another set of criteria to work on so that you can provide the best experience for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at that point, that's basically where I wanted to end. I think that the information that you've gotten today, you'll be able to get. But I think looking through this and having a clear understanding of how this can help your organization and the steps that you should take. You don't want to eat the whole burrito at once, right? You want to take small bites. Summer, thank you so much for sharing this information, and hope people get an opportunity to use it, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. This was a blast.
You're welcome. It was a blast for me too. By the way, I want to say the Screen Actors Guild is on strike, so Summer and I had to come up with this talk line on our own. So make sure you're nice to us in the reviews.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Summer and Paul. Great information, great conversation. Really good stuff. We have a few questions to answer. Let's see if I can operate this correctly. So do you see IT leading the charge for EX, for employee experience, or more so HR? I think maybe Summer, that's a question for you.
Yeah, so the question was, do I see IT leading the charge, or is it more HR and employee service?
That's right.
Got you. I don't think there's necessarily a, one versus the other. HR teams have employee service needs, as do IT teams. I think what those teams are going to be concerned with or worried about, that tends to shift. What's common is both teams want to provide really effective service. I think an IT team might be a little bit more plugged into what's your platform security like, and take a little bit of a deeper dive there. But I think that we're in a world now where multiple internal teams that need to provide service are all trying to figure this out together.
Great answer. Thanks. We have a few more. How are Zendesk and EZO together managing the ever-changing remote and hybrid shifts happening in the workplace? I think that's a question for both of you. Summer, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So from the Zendesk side, and then Paul, if you want to speak to the asset management piece of this, our solution, Zendesk, is really designed to be a digital first tool. So what we actually saw as we shifted from in-person work to becoming more and more workplaces, becoming remote, becoming hybrid, is we actually saw more people organically coming to us saying, hey, I would love to, I use Zendesk for my customer support. Can I use it to support my employees? Because they understand that, you obviously your customers aren't located in the same place as you. And your employees are no longer located in the same place as you. And so having something that, again, was really easy to use, both for because this is a new muscle for a lot of these internal teams that maybe haven't provided support before. So having something that was really intuitive for them to kind of get up to speed with, you don't need months and months of training to figure out how to use Zendesk. It was really easy to stand up, so you didn't have to wait a year into the, your transition to maybe being a remote or hybrid workplace to be able to have a solution. All of those things really helped us thrive in this world.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think on our end, it's having the right information for the right location at the right time for the agent. So what we're seeing a lot is that, our organizations are coming up to us now with a lot more, remote work, a lot more hybrid work, sharing of assets between different people in an organization when they're working remotely. If I work around the corner from you, Bruce, remotely, there could be a chance that I gave you a piece of equipment that no one knew I shared with you. And so when you call into the desk, they don't know what you might be talking about. So with our software and with the capabilities of Zendesk, we're able to track exactly what is the equipment that we're really talking about. Where is it located becomes less of an issue. It's more about a direct communication with you. So really, the key for us is that it doesn't matter where you are, the same service process is going to take place regardless to where you're located. Because as far as the agent's concerned, they have the same information for everyone. And that can be location-based or it could be user-based, but they're looking at the same set of information. Does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Couple more. And Paul, I think this one's for you. How easy is it to integrate EZO's asset management with Zendesk?
Oh, it's a piece of cake. Technically, it's very simple. We've built interfaces that allow the clients to work with the two products seamlessly. When you begin working with us, the EZO and Zendesk team work together to figure out what's the best release process for you. And the APIs are already built. We both have extensions to our product that give you access to more capabilities that are specific to either the service desk or specific to asset management. So as we look at the two solutions, they integrate extremely easily because Zendesk and EZO have put in the time to make sure that experience is as good as possible and understand the completeness of that solution. So we understand that there's a hand-holding that has to take place from the service desk, and that service desk needs the best information and the latest real-time information they can get.
Great. Appreciate it. One more here. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have any more questions, please do type them into the Q&A panel from Zoom. I have one more here, and I believe this is for you, Summer. When will AI features be available in Zendesk?
Yeah, I love this question because AI features have been available at Zendesk for a very, very long time. We've been using things like chatbots for years and years. And we also recently launched our advanced AI SKU, where we're launching things like advanced AI chatbots that are based on, we've trained on service data explicitly. So that's a huge differentiator in this space. We have features like intelligent triage, which again, they serve up different intents and it serves up sentiment so that you have all of that information before you even have to, provide the service. So there's a ton already available. And I would encourage folks to check out our website to learn more about that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. Excuse me. All right. Well, just a quick note. to use the URL that you see on screen. I've also put it into the chat for the webinar. If you want to click on that link, that's where you can access the Zendesk Employee Experience Trends 2023 report. And since there are no further questions, I think that's a wrap. Speaking from the EZO side, please reach out to us at info@ezio.io if any additional questions arise, and we'll be glad to help. Thank you again to Summer and Paul so much. It was a great session and great information. Thank you all very much for attending our webinar. We hope it is helpful for you and your team. And as a reminder, you will receive a link to the event recording via email within a few days. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See
everyone.
ya.
Bye.